Thanks for staying with us. Remember that the National Assembly has now adopted the fiscal framework as far as the revenue proposal is concerned, tabled by the Finance Minister last month. And imagine all of this, right, as it's happening. We've heard from different political parties and South Africans watching then to see what becomes the next course of action for the next 30 days. We're hearing parties talk about this. But then you have the EFF saying nothing is going to change. So that is why then we are bringing in our international news editor, Sophie Mukwena, to talk about the international aspect of this one, because these developments certainly are going to catch the eyes of the investors. At the same time, Mzwandile Mbeje is also with us to speak about the politics of what played out today. Thank you to you both for your time. Mzwai, I'm going to start with you straight to it. You do have the Finance Minister speaking at the end of that particular budget debate, saying that one, you cannot, be part of something that you voted against. And he's speaking, of course, about the budget. Is the DA in or out?
Well, by all looks, it looks like the DA will be out. And I'll tell you why, Bongiwe and Sophie. The fact of the matter is that ahead of this budget vote today, the leaders of the ANC have been very clear that we can't serve with people who are opposed to this budget. So as recently as earlier today, Nomvula Mongoyan, the Deputy Secretary General, made it clear to say, if they don't vote with us, what's the point of them being here? And then, of course, Minister Godongwane, who actually presented that budget framework, so was even more clear to say, no, we can't have a situation where people will implement something that they are opposed to. As we take a listen, Bongiwe and Sophie, to exactly that clip.
I don't think you can vote against a budget and tomorrow you want to go and be part of its implementation. It can't be. It can't be. We've got to draw a line on that point. I thank you.
Well, you've got to draw a line. That is a very weighty statement, Bongiwe.
Weighty indeed. Sophie, how does this one play out internationally?
Well, I think let's look at what often happens internationally, where you have the coalitions or perhaps a minority government. They lead to the collapse of government. And that's exactly what happened in Germany recently. That's why the Germans went to elections. Now, clearly there's going to be implications even outside South Africa, in a sense that those who are watching outside South Africa, looking at the government of national unity, will then say, but what is happening? Hang on, where is this thing going? And therefore, this will also attract interest in terms of the international investors, foreign direct investment, whether is this government going to be stable and is the country going to be stable for investment? And therefore, it will be important for the President of the Republic to assure the investors that whatever has happened today doesn't mean that it will affect the environment to invest in South Africa. And secondly, you will have to ensure that you take your friends on board in terms of what does this mean for South Africa. And you know that with South Africa, it's quite a different situation. It's not like the United States of America when people don't agree on a budget and then the entire government shuts down. But in South Africa, there are provisions to ensure that even if there's disagreement, you are able to continue to do the work as government, and therefore you are not going to experience a shutdown, and something that needs to be clarified to international community and international investors. But I think it will be important for those who are responsible in terms of communicating this message to communicate and clarify what happened, the impact thereof, and how South Africa is going to handle this. As you can see, speculations are rife whether the second member of the government of national unity in terms of numbers will pull out or not. I don't know. I'm not sure that the DA will pull out. Some people are saying they will, and I'll tell you why. The DA agreed to this government of national unity because of certain commitments they made with people who are influential outside the DA. Because initially, the DA was saying, let ANC have a minority government, let's come in and hold strategic positions in committees and also in parliament to hold the ANC accountable. But that and about 10 speaks to someone was pushing the DA to get into government. And now having this situation, what is the DA going to do? Therefore, it's too early to say they will pull out. They might look at a situation where ANC is pushing them out. And I don't know how ANC is going to push them out. Therefore, it might not be as easy as we think it's going to be, but the relations are irreparable and very frosty. They may deny publicly, but there's no way. I mean, we had the anger of the Minister of Finance, Mzwandile, at the end when he was talking to Abra. And therefore, investors, international investors, will be watching.
And Mzwandile, suppose if they decide to stay, as Sophie says, relations are definitely going to be frosty. They're taking this matter to court. How then do you stay within a government of national unity where even some of the other members have said we are not going to be held at ransom by you?
I think the situation for the DA currently is absolutely untenable. It is very, very difficult. I mean, even if the DA wants to stay, and I suspect, Bongiwe, that they will probably say, let's see what the ANC does. They may not voluntarily walk out unless this meeting that they are expected to hold this evening decides that they go. But I think they would want the ANC, or maybe the president in this instance, to be the one who decides. And then in that instance, so let's say they decide not to go. The members of government, I mean the finance minister, has basically said very publicly they can't do this. This deputy secretary general has said it clear. They can't have this. I mean, even in the leaked audios that we heard, the deputy president of the republic said they cannot.
When they're working themselves
even
out.
the president says, you know what, they're defining themselves outside of this. Even if they were to stay a little longer, I can tell you, I don't see them stay until perhaps the next 3 months or so. Nah.
Sophie, I don't want to move away from the DA just yet. We've seen them recently going to the US to talk about some of the issues even around expropriation. Should they decide to pull out, and as they are defining themselves, as the president is saying, of the ANC in that leaked audio, can we see a more vigorous push or even attempt from their side to keep going to the US?
You'll see the DA, very vigorous in opposing what they don't agree with. And that posture where they are very hard on government will play itself. And I agree with you. Those trips or the meetings in the United States of America, that we still have to get finer details in terms of who they met. Because I can go to the United States of America and just meet a low-key delegation of the US government, people who are not even influential. So those engagements may not be as strong as it would have been when they are in the government of national unity. The other issue is, with this standoff and this frosty relationship, DA had made an undertaking that they will mobilize support for South Africa, that AGOA must continue and all of that. These are some of the issues that we will be monitoring, whether they will still stand up firm and say we support the government, the issue of AGOA must be renewed, with this kind of challenges. And remember, the main constituency of the DA who are they? And therefore they have to take that into consideration.
Quite interesting, because even the Shadow Minister for International Relations, when we spoke to her here on the show, she said, I went to the US as a South African to make sure that South Africa does not find itself in an unenviable position. So if that changes, it'll be interesting to see. Mzwai, there's another party, though, that seems to be, the name is touted quite a lot as far as this budget is concerned, and that's the Action SA.
Oh, yes. I think because it's being credited with coming up with some sort of, in inverted commas, a compromise so that the budget could be passed, so that the next 30 days certain things could be corrected in terms of looking for some revenue. But if you listen particularly to the DA, they are going hard on Action SA. It's for the very simple reasons. They are fishing from the same pond. So they are seeing the opportunity to say, well, maybe this is the great opportunity to decimate the Action SA. Whatever is being viewed as wrong, we are not even entertaining the ANC in this instance. We are actually saying it's Action SA. And I think it's politics at play, full politics at play.
What about the EFF?
Exactly, which is actually very interesting. In fact, I wanted also to go to a situation where the DA finds itself in a very difficult position. Just forget about the DA and the ANC at the moment. One of the key reasons the DA decided to go to the Government of National Unity was to prevent the EFF and MK in this instance. One of the main reasons the EFF did not join GNU because they wouldn't serve with the DA. So you have a situation where the DA could walk out. Is the EFF coming in? And we know that the EFF is very amenable of going to the Government of National Unity if these ones are out. I can tell you now, sitting here, in the next few days, weeks, maybe months, we are likely to see the reconstitution of this GNU. It indeed will include parties like the EFF and Action SA. You may not even rule out the MK party, depending on how their negotiations go, particularly in relation to KZN.
That's very interesting. And Sophie, just before I let you go, you know, there is another big story. We're watching the US and the tariffs. We've been talking about it since yesterday. This, of course, will not bow down well for international, you know, players. How then does it begin to play out, particularly when it comes to its impact globally?
A few minutes ago, we saw a story that President Trump has imposed sanctions against Russia. That's a big one. We are waiting to see at 10 p.m. Central African time, our time, those announcements by President Trump in terms of countries that are going to be affected, multinational companies that are going to be affected. So the whole world is watching and waiting to see what is America going to do and begin to assess the impact in your own backyard as a country. And I think even South Africa will be watching.
Mzwai, how does it play out locally?
Of course, you know, we do export some of the cars to the US and of course some of the components. They are not necessarily in large numbers, but in our context, they are quite key. So we will definitely be affected. But I'm not sure in the long run how this will affect the United States itself. Yes, in the immediate, I mean, many countries will suffer because it is the United States, it is the biggest economy, it is the superpower. But I can tell you, unknowingly, perhaps Trump is rearranging the geopolitics and even economics. Right now, Sophie will tell you, China and Russia are set to meet. And that meeting is quite key. They've realized that the superpower is doing things their way. Let's also show we can do it our way.
As Sophie says, it's going to be another long night. It's going to be yet another long night. Let me thank you both for your time, my colleagues there, Mzwandile Mbeje and Sophie Mukwena. And you can, of course, catch the developments at 10 o'clock. A lot of people are waiting to see what is going to happen here. Which direction does the U.S. president then move towards, and preparing, you know, the responses there. The Department of Trade and Industry is going to be one of those departments that's watching very keenly these particular developments.